And we already have our next study group set up, and I saw Violet on here. I saw her square on here, but we're onto a second screen now, so she's probably on the second screen. So Violet is going to demonstrate writing pencil Romans in circles. And she had some beautiful stuff, and she's graciously agreed to demo for us. So that'll be March 6th. Friday, March 6th. And it's on the website. And after this, she's just sent me the supply list. So that's the last thing I needed. I'll put that out there and then I will open it for registration. So we everyone will get in. I advertise these so we have less than 100 people logging in. I don't want it to be, I like it to be friendly, and so don't worry, you'll get in. And so many people are remote that not everybody logs in, so we don't worry about getting too many people. Just the it's just that we go to multiple screens and we can't see everybody, but we're glad to have you all here. So take a look at that. When I send out the recording, I'll send a link to that also so that those of you who want can register. And it's just fine if you can't attend live. We send out the recording to everybody who registers. So don't worry if you can't attend live. And I'm glad that so many of you could attend live tonight. Let me get we do, so most of the people on here are not local, but just because this is the San Diego chapter, we do have some new San Diego members. I don't know if they're on tonight, but we have an in-person workshop coming up. I think it's March 14th and 15th. Randy Hassan, he lives in our area and has agreed to do an in-person workshop. It won't be online. Randy does have that course. It's going to be Rome Metallic. He does have that course available online that you can purchase through his website. And the prices, I think, are pretty reasonable. So, but he enjoys teaching in person when it's not too far from home. So we do have that set up. And we will have some more. Wendy and I are working together to get some more in-person things going. A lot of them will be also online. We're we're just so busy with everything that we don't have them out there yet, but we will be posting out there and we will send notices for that. And we'll announce them in the study group also. Okay, so before we get started, anybody have any questions or comments? If you do, just feel free to unmute and ask. Otherwise, I'll get started and we'll go through these journals. Let's see, let me just spotlight myself. Turn this on. Okay, and let me focus. Okay, so I'm going to show you these journals. I think I briefly showed them in a couple sessions during announcements. I have a friend in Gilbert, Arizona, Joyce Bank, and I've known her. I've been a member of the Arizona Guild longer than I've been a member of the Los Angeles Guild, only because I was able to get in touch with them, and way back when it was not easy to get in touch with anyone from the Los Angeles Guild. I ended up having to join in Arizona, where we had relatives, and they put me in touch with somebody from Society for Calligraphy. So I never drop my membership with Arizona. I try to go there at least once a year. And most of their workshops are in person, but they do have monthly meetings where half of it is online. Unfortunately, they're on the same day as our San Diego activities, so I don't get to join those too often. But Joyce was the one who came up with this, and Joyce loves unusual words, and she's just very articulate. She's written a couple of little poems and sent to us, and we just always loved that when she sent those. And so at one point, I was there for a workshop, and Joyce taught this as a little activity in the evening. And what's funny is she always talks about this, forsooth. I think that's probably from Shakespeare. When I first joined in 2003, there was a member, her name was Sylvia, and she just was sitting in the workshop, and suddenly that's what she said, forsooth. And Joyce never forgot that, and she tries to use that word quite often. So that's on the cover of her journal. This is Joyce's. She gave it to me, and she named this the Runcible Journal. And I knew I had heard that term before, but I didn't really remember what it meant. And I looked it up, and I can't even think of the author's name at the moment. I should have written that down, but it was an author who
Was it
he named,
Edward Lear?
yes, Edward Lear. I always think of another artist, and that's why I get kind of blocked from Lear. Thank you. And he came up with I think it's a poem, and it had a runcible spoon. And if you look at the picture, he drew his own pictures, and the picture is a ladle. And I'm thinking it was a stork using it, but the runcible spoon came to be used as a spork, which is a spoon with tins cut. But in his picture, it was not a spork, but that's what it became to mean. And then later he used this same word to describe a couple other things. And I think I put that in the description of this workshop. He just liked the word, and Joyce liked the word. So she came up with this Runcible journal. And what Joyce uses these for is in a workshop. She'll take notes in it. And I love that idea. I can see I'm going to have to keep refocusing. And but we just got together. It was just a fun activity, and we created these. And so I'll show you how to fold them. And what we used when we made these, I'm pretty sure we used sketch paper. And Joyce walked us through making Enzos. And I'll tell you, I think I used gouache for this one, and I was much happier with this Enzo that I created. It just has it was obviously a drier brush, and I had a palette where I could really palette it and not get the brush too wet. But when I put the one together for us to use tonight, I just had a pot of sumi and dipped it in, and it was really wet. So it doesn't have the same texture, etc. But I'm giving you something to work with. It's just fine when it's folded up, but you can make your own. We had a workshop with Barbara Close. It wasn't even a workshop. It was one of our study group sessions. A few months ago, we made Enzos in there, and pretty much you just take a brush, a pointed brush, press it, and then pull up. So I did this one with, I think, a regular pointed brush. This one I used a Chinese pointed brush, and I think the one I have is not the best quality because I didn't get the best results. Or maybe it's just I'm not an expert at using that type of brush. But just to give you an idea, I also created just a few things to play around with. And I did one where, and I don't have it here. I put it under something to flatten out. And can I find it? I don't remember what I put it under. But what I did was I just made little splot. I did washes of color. And I just did brush marks this way. Now, if I were going to do one that I was just experimenting. If I really wanted a nice journal, and I may do another one, I probably would tape off the edges and do a wash. And with a wash, you turn it upside down, you have the more concentrated color here. You're going halfway into the brush stroke. Let's see, do I have a flat brush here? Not handy. So you do your brush stroke here, and then halfway in, you do the next one. You may start, as you go down, you barely dip it in water and it gets lighter and lighter. So, and then what I did was I had a palette where I had mixed colors for another project. And I did one color on this, a different color. I just went through the shades, one adjacent color to the next. It was like a mix of red and blue. And I started at one end of the spectrum and just moved on and did each page. And I also then had red and yellow. So that was a fun way. And when I was first introduced to this fold, it was in a class with Connie Ferguson in San Diego. This was probably 20 years ago. She gave us a handout. She had us just put it down, and we took a watercolor pointed brush and we just made marks on our paper. And then we folded it. And those were our handouts from her class, and she had designed them to fold into this journal. So this is a pretty common form. And Cheryl Moot calls these 2-minute journals. Anne Davnies Elsner calls them zines. And there's just, I've heard them called one-sheet journals. So we'll create them, and you can keep it as a sample. This, the reason I'm pretty sure it's sketch, not only because of the texture, but it's slightly bigger than the one I created with my 8.5 by 11. So this is 9 by 12. It's just makes a slightly larger journal, and you can use whatever paper you want. I just love the idea of using these for notes and for practice. So I'm going to start a little more with Joyce's. I'm going to go through the Romans, but I first want to just talk about this. And Joyce's, her lettering of choice is she does do a lot of Romans, and she's very casual about it. She does not try for perfection. So here's her just practicing. And I'm sorry, this camera, it's this, I got a new Mac, and sometimes it focuses nicely and sometimes it doesn't. So let me just zoom in. I mean, I said I got a new Mac. Well, I got it a while ago, but it is not quite as clear with this document camera as the old Mac was. Okay, so here's her Rowan. She just runs through them. I mean, just look, you could take your handout and you can just practice these. It's just a quick way, and it just makes a nice texture on the paper. And then she made a little calendar, and the group in Arizona is called the Calligraphic Society of Arizona. So CSA meeting was on the 10th of that month. And then we had a bunch of collage materials. We called it collage fodder. Some people call it ephemera. So we were just picking different things, and Joyce loved the comic and the Batman. And here's her little, she's making some little swatches of value sketch. Here is more saturated, here's less saturated. And I think this might have been in December. I'm not sure, but it was in the winter. And so she had her asterisks or snowflakes and her marks. And here she is just writing with Romans and just whatever, just to practice lettering, fill up the pages. And then the other thing with Joyce is her little symbol is a snail. And she said she chose that because she can draw it. So whenever I see a birthday card with a snail on it, I snap it up and send that to Joyce. The other thing Joyce does is she writes on tea paper, tea bag paper. And she actually had a project published in Bound and Letter magazine, maybe 15 years ago or so. She used to make what she called book ghosts. She had a little printed uh, piece of paper that she would fold, and inside she would have a little piece of art done on tea bag paper. And she would just leave it like in a bookstore or in the library in a book. So that was her fun little thing she did. And just here's a scrap, and here's lettering in a circle. So I'm showing you this so you can just see, to me, this is um, motivation. And Caroline, you have a question?
Thank you. Um, on the tea bag, what does she write with? Is it ink
I think
or
it's
is it a
with a
pencil?
gel, probably a jelly roll.
Oh, a jelly roll.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
Nice effect. Thank you.
Yeah. You could do it with a pointed pen and bleed proof white. It's just that this one seems pretty strong, but some tea bag paper might rip. So I think she was just using a gel pen. I think we get together and we probably had a stack of Uniball pens, gel pens, etc. Um, and and then just that's what we did. We made these and then we just wrote on them. But and Joyce even wrote her name on the back. But she told me what she really likes these for is for taking notes and workshops. This was just us getting together doing this together, but usually taking notes and workshops. And I love that. I think I should take one to Letters California style. So this was mine that I did with Joyce walking me through it. And we're just quickly lettering. And then we had the stack of collage. So I just cut this one out and I got the heart was punched. And so Joyce's symbol is the snail. Well, mine is the heart. I can draw a heart or I can punch a heart. And then I just practiced letters, different letters. And I do want to fill this whole thing up with letters and then work on another one too to do the whole alphabet. I have pages of letters I look at, but wouldn't it be handy to have them all just in a little book like this that I could just grab? It stands out. Just grab it, and I'm working on Romans, and here's the variations. So these I think I did 3/4 inch lines. I'm going to suggest maybe 1/2 inch lines tonight because I'll walk us through writing some letters and we'll base them on a square, but we're going to make them narrow. And so we'll probably do half a square. Okay, so I gave you this handout as a reference, but we're going to do more narrow and varied letters. Okay, so, but first of all, I'm going to walk you through folding this and making it. So now all I have to do is figure out where did I put this little one I just made. I've got all my papers stacked right here. Here it is. Okay. So here's if you have a piece of paper or if you printed the Enzo handout that I sent out, as I said, it's not the most gorgeous Enzo, but it doesn't really matter when you fold it. It just adds interest to the pages rather than just blank pages. And the reason I talked about the watercolor, you can do whatever you want to add interest to these. It's I mean, you can use plain sheets, but it's just so much fun to have something to work around. Okay, so what you do, take the piece of paper and fold it lengthwise with the Enzo on the outside. They call those hot dog folds. And then unfold it and fold it this way. That's called a hamburger fold. Fold it in half. Okay, and then unfold it and fold one side to the center. And then turn it this way and fold the other way to the center. And there's different ways you can cut this. When I cut this, I had a ruler and X-Acto knife, but I wanted to have a nice, easy supply list, and this isn't hard. So what I did, I took this one right here. You'll see the fold. I just took the pair of scissors and I cut to that fold. And that's key to getting this into booklet form. So go ahead and I'm going to just check how you doing. Does everybody's have their folded and cut? I don't want to leave, it's fine to move ahead, but I don't want to leave everybody way behind.
We should have 8 rectangles. Is that right, Kristi?
Yes.
And
4 on
fold
each
it in
side.
half and cut it on the fold side to the center.
Yeah, so I folded it, hamburger fold.
And
After I've already made all the folds, I made all the folds, and then I fold it in half and use this line right here.
okay. Thank you.
Sorry, you can't see as well because this camera, I've got to be kind of close for it to focus. Okay, so you've got that. Now we're going to fold it into a book. So what you see is you've got this cut right here.
Excuse me, could you put yourself on spotlight again?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. So you've got this fold, this cut and fold. So what you do is take it here, fold this up, and you fold everything to one side. So I did this fold that I have just to make sure you see how I'm doing this. I've got this fold. I folded these out. And then I fold everything to the left side. So basically you're refolding on the folds. And you've got a little book. I was playing with this book here and I was looking at it and I had it folded like an accordion. So I could, this is what not to do. I had this folded like an accordion. And I suddenly realized I hadn't pulled apart my little pieces. So it was an accordion instead of a little book with a cover. So you want to make sure you pulled out those pieces. That's a whole reason for the cut. You've pulled that out and then it ends up with a cover.
I'm sorry, can you do that one more time? The
Yeah.
fold I've gotten the cut. But
Yes, I can.
thank you.
Okay, so I folded lengthwise.
Yes.
It's already folded, but I'm folding it lengthwise. I'm just refolding everything. And then I pull this apart. You don't have it this way and folded. I pull them apart and fold them that way. And so then I have just little pages. I just turn them all one way and I flatten it. And it's like a little book with the cover. It's no big deal if you end up with an accordion style book. That's the way I was using it. And then when I was preparing for this class, I said, wait a minute, that's not right. So it works either way, but it's just a fun little thing. And that's what makes it a one-page journal. It's actually got a self cover. Any more questions before we move on?
And you can probably pick whichever piece you want for the cover of it, right?
Yeah, but it's going to be on the end. So either it would be this one or it would be this one. And I wanted the one with the mark on it. So yes, I could have picked this plain one, but I wanted the one with the mark. I could just turn this over. Here's this mark. I could turn this over right now, except that the cut edges will be at the top. So, but that's my choice. I could do that if I wanted, but I wanted the folded edges at the top, and that's what I come up with. And then I'm not going to do this right now, or maybe I will. You could take glue stick, pick something out to collage on it. And so I went through, I have a little box. I got this box at a garage sale years ago. I had a friend, that's what we did for exercise. We used to, let me put it on. I'm going to put myself on here, just my face. Okay. So my friend and I, years ago, she was a coworker. She didn't live that far from me, and we both liked to bicycle. So on Saturdays, we would bicycle to garage sales. That was just our motivation to get out there. And we would just map out a route and we'd ride all over the place. So we went a lot of miles. And one of the things I found was this box. Eventually, we had to stop this bike riding to garage sales. We got too much stuff. We didn't want any more stuff. So we had to, then we started going on the river trails and riding to the beach, etc. But anyway, so this box has these little compartments in it. And what's fun is it's got these small little compartments, and I've got my little collage fodder in there. And then the second drawer has room for a little bit bigger. And then the bottom drawer is just the full thing. So this is where I keep a lot of my small pieces for collage. So I went through this and I picked out something for my book that I'm showing you. Let me get back on the screen. And I said that hearts are my little thing. Joyce's are snails, mine are hearts. This was a Kleenex pack, and I actually found this in Belgium. I'm sure they sell them here too, but years ago, I bought this pretty little package of Kleenexes, and I just used it for collage. I wasn't going to blow my nose with these. They had all these pretty little squares. So that's what I'm going to put on this one. I'm just going to put glue stick on it and glue it on there. But I was looking at when I thought before I found that, we're taking this class with Veronica, the Mostly Romans, and I was testing my samples of colors. I wanted to come up with my palette that I was going to use. and I drew these little boxes around it, and I thought I wouldn't mind cutting this out and using that as my piece of collage too. But then again, I like this whole little strip. So it's better that I use the heart, and then I can save this strip for another piece of collage. All right, so I just know I'm going to do that. And what we can do is we can put a title on this, and you can do it later. It might not be, sorry, I'm going to admit it. You may not have your title yet. You don't have to do it right now, but you just put a half-inch lines with an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch between, and you can put your title on there. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to demo, but I also got out paper to demo. But I'm thinking if you want to, you can follow along in here, and you can draw a 1/2 inch. So let me grab a ruler, and I have a pencil here. And let's just say, and I'm going to put this on just so I can I want to start a 1/4 inch from the top. And then I'm just going to move down 1/2 inches, okay? And I'm not going to write these in here, but I'm going to suggest maybe you want to write yours in there. I'm going to just do mine on a sheet so that I can then copy it and send you the demo after class. So only for that reason. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to continue with these letters. A, B, C, D, etc. I'll move on to a second journal for the rest of mine. And probably this one, I'll just call it Romans Variations. Okay, I see we have some things in the chat. I'm not sure if there's anything. Okay. So you've got your sheet and we've gone over this many times in the past. Some people may not have been here for those reviews. Usually in September, we do a review of Roman structure, but you've got it and it shows you the width. So here's your full square, etc. What I used to do, I learned it from Jürgen Berkemst. I studied with him at Legacies Conference. It was the online conference during the pandemic. He would just have us shrink down to half. So if it's an O, it would take up half a square. It would still be the same height. We were doing narrow letters, so it would still be the same height, but it'd be half the width. And then if you got down to the letters that are normally half, I'm going to zoom in so it'll be clearer. If you got to the letters that were normally half, then those would be a 1/4 square when you got done. But then I took a class with John Stevens at Cheerio last year, and one of the exercises we did was every letter was the same width, except I, of course. But like an O would be half a square, and so would a J. And it just made it so much easier. So you've got your choice. If you want to practice your proportions, then you will do it like Jürgen did. You'll do the actual proportions. But if you don't want to think about it, you just want to do some nice looking letters, then you can do them all half square width. So I'm going to get started on those, and let me turn on the light here. See if I'm going to just see if that helps. Yeah, possibly. Okay, so I'm going to start, and I will start with A. And I'm going to do them, I guess I'll do them the correct width. No, I'm going to do them all 1/2 inch. I just think because this is such a short session, I think for this time we will do everything half square. And I'm going to do, I think I'll do them a full square an inch high just so you can see better. But you might want to do them a half square high. So I'm going to do O. So I'm going to start about here. And I'm doing press and release. So I'm doing O. I said I was going to start with A, but I didn't. And I'm warming up. That's a pretty bad O. So let me start with A on the next one and then we'll come back. So A, here's a variation. And these are based on letters Peter Thornton does. Quite a few of the people I've studied with Peter Thornton. I've studied with him also, but I didn't study traditional Romans with him, which many people did, and then they do variations. I took his, it wasn't called Funky Romans, but something like that. But I have studied with many people that studied with him, so I've kind of learned from them. So if I'm going to do a half square, I'm just going to point this out just for your benefit that of what I'm, just to make it clear what I'm doing. And this one, so when I'm doing press and release, if it's a straight line, I press, release, press. Okay. And this is with John talking about doing them all the same width. I think when I do my own book, I'm going to make them more narrow than that. I don't really like it that wide. I think maybe I would do, for my own book, I would do a quarter. And what we did in John's class, everything looked great, the styles we were using, but just this style does not look so good at that half-inch width. So this is your book. You're doing casual, and you do them the way you want to do them. And then just here's another A. And it's narrow. And maybe I'll do that one more towards the center. And a lot of times when you do press and release, a regular A, I think the first stroke is thin and the second stroke is thick. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. And so you press more on the stroke that would be thick for press and release. And please feel free to ask any questions. I don't want to be confusing anyone. Okay, B. So what I did when I did my little book is I did a whole page of A's. Here's all these different A's. I'm not going through them all right now. Last night I added these two, but look around, just see what you see out there. Pick out A's you like and just put them all in one place. I'm taking Veronica's class and I was looking at different sheets here and there. And then I thought, well, I'm going to get out my little book for the A's, but I haven't finished this book. So I need to finish it so I can look for all the letters in a handy little reference like that. So I'll just do a few B's. And often when we do these casual B's, we often have them, the center, the round part is high. It's not low. And let me just do one here, except I don't want to do that as a demo, but okay, I'll do it lighter. If I did one where the thick part was lower, that one doesn't look so bad, but some of them do. And the way I was taught, it was called a beer belly when the wider part was low. And that was one thing we were told not to do. I think I'm not exaggerating so much here, so it doesn't look so bad. It could be saved by just making that whole thing thick. But that's just one thing. It's more lively when the thick part is high. And when you're doing press and release, it's the wide part of the curve that is emphasized by pressing. Another B would be, okay, so I do press, release, press, and then I'm going to do here, and then here, and a curve. There's a variation. And another variation, because these are variations, we are not trying to be traditional. So this one's got a very large upper bowl and a small lower bowl. And just thicken it up. C. There's one C. Usually, though, I would want it a little more stable on the bottom. So I am going to have one that comes down a little further before going out. So these, and this one I made wider. Just different variations. And it would be smoother. When you're doing it on, you'd warm up first, and you can always, so press and release, you just press and release, but I'm doing built up capitals now where I'm adding weight. And I can add some weight at the end here. Or I might even put a little, I don't want it to look like a G, so I wouldn't put too tall of a serif there, but I could put a serif. Maybe even, I might make it even shorter than that. So these are your references. You play around and see what you like. And we're taking the class with Veronica, and she likes really squared off letters, which those can be fun also. Just and maybe a serif here. Okay, D. I hope some people are working in their book. Those are so easy to put together. You don't have to worry. Like some of us with a blank page and a new journal, we don't want to mess it up, but these are just such simple little things. And especially if you do them with a piece of sketch paper or with a piece of copier paper, they're just not precious and you can really use them. That's one thing I really like about them. Okay, E, press, release, press. And then I press here, it's a straight line. Come down. Do come across, come up, and then across. And one of the things we do with Veronica is she likes to put her crossbars at different places. So if you have an E at various places on a line, One would be really low, another one would be really high, one would be in the middle. So that's something to play around with. And in your book, you could do 3 of these and put the crossbar at different places just to remind you of that. But I'll do the next crossbar, I'll do an F. They're so close. Okay, and then come over. This one will have a serif also, and it'll have a high crossbar. Let me make sure I get this on the screen. A G. So I'm gonna move down a little bit so they don't run into each other. Okay, here's a very simple G. Another G I like to do. And I'm just making these a little bit shorter just to, because I've got this lined paper and it fits. I was thinking I could even make one of these little journals with this graph paper if I wanted to. And H. So a lot of times when I do my H's, I might make the first stroke a little shorter, and then the second one a little taller, and maybe a low crossbar on this one too. It could be anywhere. It could be low, it could be high. And an I. So I often, if I'm doing these really casual I's or casual letters, I may do a shorter I and put a dot on it. If I'm doing something more formal, then I make it higher and I don't put a dot on it. And some of the instructors I've had, so I'm talking right now, I'm studying with Veronica. Well, Veronica has studied with Peter Thornton, um, Susie Behringer, and a lot of these teachers, they may mix in, and I'm thinking of Sherry Thornton also, may mix in some lowercase versions. So like this E, we might put in, and just studying with Veronica reminds me, because she studied with some of these same teachers. So just for interest, you might put an E in like that. Or I think Veronica makes them even, she makes them more square. I don't remember exactly how she makes hers. And then some instructors, you might do this, and you might have one coming through like that. So these are just all these variations that you can include as options and to use or not at some point. And then the J. So I usually, if I do a J, I often do it like this. But the class we're taking now, we were making them like with the upper bar. I should neaten that up a little bit. And maybe you would make that longer because that could be mistaken for an I. In the class we were doing it that length, but I think I might, if I were thinking ahead, I might make it a little longer just to make it clear that it's a J, not an I. And K. And it can, the top of the K can come anywhere Well, we're casual. It can even come below the halfway point, but often somewhere to the halfway point or below. And then for the slanted, just to make it more lively, turn your paper and pull it towards you and do a little kick on the bottom. One possibility. And that little kick is something I got from Sherry Thornton, and she, I think, attributed that to Peter. It just was kind of like going back over it, and sometimes it would be separate. It just added a bit of liveliness. I have to say, I think one of the favorites I've ever studied with was Sherry Thornton, and she's pretty much retired now. Once in a while, she teaches, and she will be teaching at the Chicago retreat this summer. Okay, L. And another thing that studying with Veronica reminded me, you don't have to make it, this is casual, you don't have to make these lines perfectly straight. In fact, a lot of the instructors will tell you, give a little bow in there. Tilt the line a little bit. It just adds such liveliness compared to the standard L that's perfectly straight. When you, a little bow, and do that on any straight. The H can have a bow, the K can have a bow, any straight line. So that's something to practice. Bowing them a little bit. This you can see is bowed. Just adds liveliness. Okay, there are some really fun M's. So here's and a serif. Come down. And this would be the heaviest because in a standard traditional Roman, that's a thick line. This line here is not quite as heavy. This would be the heavier one. And it barely slants out. I think this one I started a little bit over, so it doesn't look like much of a slant. I do have a bow in there though. So, but that's kind of fun when they're not exactly the same. I think if I was working on something for an exhibit or something, I'd try to get it a little closer to being even, but just for fun, it may not be. And here's another M. And this can be a little lower, and this one a little higher. And I made sure to put a little bit of a bow in there. Okay, N. Usually when I do them, I do the traditional. Let's put a little bow in there, just barely. One thing that Veronica did that I thought was real fun, and we were talking about using the lowercase as a variation. She does these ends, and I just enjoyed them very much. If you're doing a whimsical look, that really fit well. And in fact, when she did them, I gotta say, you can even start and come up. And you might even add a little bow in here. So let's do this.
You're off the screen.
Oh, sorry, my hand's in the way. Okay, so here, a little bow. Okay. Oh, that was much better than the first one I did. But it's a little pointy, and that's what I'm okay with that. I'm thinking of Veronica and her O's, which are kind of squarer. And sometimes hers are kind of egg shaped with the skinnier part on the bottom and they're wider up here. And that kind of looks, could be a G. So probably to avoid that look, getting it confused with a G, maybe I wouldn't come around quite so far. And maybe I would just bring it even closer. Not such a gap in there, just, but you know, in the context of the word, it's going to be clear, but this one to me started to look a little like a G. And then let's say we're doing a Q. There are different Qs. So, well, let me do the P's first, then we'll get to the Q's. Okay, P's. I got my little bow in there. And just a couple things I'm going to point out here. So you can come through or not. I might do one and I just stop it there. And doing this was something I kind of picked up from Veronica. It had a whimsical look, but she also did letters where they came over. And you can have serifs or not. So I've got that serif there, and maybe I do a little curve here. And if I'm doing that curl, I might come out a little further. So you've got all these options. Play around, come up with what you like. Okay, and then I'm going to do a Q, and I'm going to do one a little bigger at the top, a little bigger here, and I'm still going to put that in there. I might close it, but just for now, I'm leaving that there. So you could just do and turn the page and do your little tail. And I'm going to do a different one. And a lot of times I like to do them like this for a Q. Okay. R. There's the curve and the line. I'll come over a little serif, high curve, and then turn it and come down. And depending on what you're doing, you might want to bring that below the line. I should have done the bowl before I turned. You might want to come below. Let's say I'm going to write Runcible or something, and then I might do a letter right in here, and that tail made room for that letter. Another R. And you might even do a little notch like that. I don't know who does that, but somebody does that. I picked it up from someone. Or you just come over here And then maybe. And I kind of like this serif to balance out that kick. And then S's. So we've talked about the formal S. Usually I do, if I really want it to be smooth, I'll draw 2 circles. And then I will just come around. A serif, serif. Okay, but I'm not worried so much right now about being perfect. So I might do one variation. Might do a small top and a large bottom. So just play around. Look at different sources. Most of us have had classes, maybe not as much as in Romans, but you'll see things out on the internet, etc. You can just look at them and pick the letters that you like, the letter forms. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. It's getting kind of dull. I'm using a fairly soft pencil, and what I've been doing for some of my letters lately is using a mechanical pencil. I got that from Marie Fredrickson, and I'll do one letter with that, but I'm gonna do most of them with the soft today. But a lot, I've been enjoying the mechanical pencil. It just has a different look. And usually when Marie did those, well, she had a soft mechanical pencil, so she could do the press and release. Mine are harder, but we can do the built-up Romans where we just fill in the space, thicken it up. Okay. But it's so much easier with the soft pencil. Okay, and here's a U. There are different U's, so I'm going to show a couple. Starting low, especially I want room next to the T. There's one U. It's probably not one I would use. Probably if I did it, then I would come down with this. If I did that type of U. And then another one that I've been enjoying lately. And I've kind of been making my first stroke shorter than the second, but it's your call, what you want to do. These are casual, don't have to be perfect. And I think I'm thinking maybe Veronica did these. Somebody in their class did these where I'm making that too pointy, where they came up all the way like that. So that was another one somebody did. And then V. And you could have a serif on a V. But I think one way to differentiate it was you could put the serif on the U and not on the V. It would help differentiate the two. It's your call. And then W's. I'm going to do a couple different W's. Actually, I maybe should do several because there's several that I have seen recently and liked. Okay, that's just more closer to the traditional, a little bit taller here, a little bit curved. Here's another just slight variation on that. Just kind of curve it. And you can play around with that. It could be less of a curve. I would do less of a curve than that, but just to show you that's a variation. And then here's one. And one I've been doing lately, I think I got the idea from Veronica, but then I added my own little preferences. And that's what I love about studying with different people. You get different ideas. I think I wouldn't put this going both ways, just one way, a serif there. And this could even come up. I like that variation. It's not one that I had been doing recently. I think I got that maybe from Veronica. Wait, where am I? Sorry, from Veronica, but then somebody else in the class did their own and gave me more ideas. One great thing about being in a class. Okay, and X. And you just always want to cross above halfway. And I'll make this a little higher. And you could even you could have this come down and
You're off the page.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm zoomed in and I get off the page. So you could just play around with the way you want to do this. And curving different ways, try that. I think I prefer this one where it's just one short, one tall, but it's nice to have a little bit of a curve in it too. So that's something to play with. Come up with different variations, and then when you look in your little book, you pick the one you want to do. And this was another one lately that I've started doing after studying with our various people we've been studying with. This Y. And then Z. Come across. And on the bottom, it's just a little wider than on the top. Okay, there's one. I'm going to do a variation.
You're still off screen. We need to go to the right.
I am on the screen, but I had my hand covering it. Is it does anybody else? Am I off screen? Because I see it on the screen.
You're fine now. I can see you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Thank you. Sorry. Sorry about that. I had my hand in the way. Okay, now I'm coming up and then I'm turning it. All right, so there's Z. And I guess we have a little more time. I can do numbers. Does anybody have any requests other than numbers? So I'm doing these tall. Often if I were addressing an envelope, I would do the numbers half height, but or at least 3/4 heights. I don't really normally do them full height, but for demo purposes, I will. Serif. And I'll try to keep my hand from blocking. Sorry. Maybe I'll turn this a little more so it won't block. Here's a 2.
Off screen.
Do it 2. Thank you for letting me know. Up. Try to keep my hand from blocking this. So there's 1, 2. 1, 1, numeral 2. Because you can play around with many variations. And then a 3. Press at the widest part of the bowl. And again, press at the widest part of the bowl. Four. Got a little bit of a curve in there. You could do a lower, could do it really low, and you could join. But it's good to have the curve in there. And if you're doing this one, you might want that one a little wider. Even wider than that. But it's your, let me try one. Let me just make sure I make it wider. Okay, I tend to narrow it. And 5. And you know that when you're doing these numbers, you can have some coming below, like the 3 could come below the line. But if I'm doing them if I'm doing tall capital letters, they're not going to bounce like that. But if I were doing smaller letters, I might do a 3 that then came below the line. So if I'm really doing a casual look, I would bounce those. And it's every other letter. Well, a 1 is, and I think a 2 is this, but then a 3 comes below. Sometimes I even do a 4 below, but I don't think that it should be on top. And then the 5's below. 6 is above. 7 could come below. 8, 9, and then, so those are the, if you want to bounce them. And here's a 6 done at capital height. Then you could come up like that if you wanted. 7. That one's really curvy. I kind of like it, but you don't have to curve it quite that much. And you can make it wider than that. And then 8. That's my 8 done as ones, but you could do stop there, come around, stop there. It's a little neater looking. 9 is just the reverse of the 6. And then usually a 0 is narrower than and I shouldn't have it as pointy as I did that. A 0 is normally narrower than an O. And probably if this were my final piece, I would probably just correct this and make it a little less pointy. I don't like it quite that pointy. And just remember to make them thicker on the sides. You can do a neater job than I did. Okay. Do we have any questions? It's probably about question answer time, and I haven't looked at the chat. Oh,
Can you show
ampersand.
the whole exemplar?
Excuse me?
Can you show the entire exemplar that you're working on?
Yeah, I can, but I have a question. I have a request to do an ampersand. So let me do that first while I'm still zoomed in, and then I'll back out. Okay, so ampersand. Let's see if I remember to do this correctly. Sometimes I have to play before I remember whether I'm doing it correctly. Okay, so there is I think some people are on a different time zone and are just now coming in. All right. And because these are square, you could play around. Get up here. You could play around with squaring these off. Some of these letters, my variations I've showed as being more square, and I think when I would be working in my book, I think I would just play around with square versions of all of these things, just to have those versions in here. Now that's a little too square, so I could round it, but that's what we're doing. We're playing to, but I'll back off on this now. And I will scan this and send out a copy afterwards. And this is, as you know, quickly done. So you would play around. And I did these in my little book. If I had something I didn't like, I would erase it and redo it. Like that W, I would erase and redo. But some of these I didn't worry so much. They're just giving me ideas. They're not perfect. They're giving me ideas. And then when I play, so like this one, the second stroke of the A comes higher.
Excuse me, Kristi.
Yes.
It's Margaret.
Yes.
There was a question in the chat from another Margaret without an A. She asked it, when doing Roman variations, when do they stop being Romans and start being some other style? I thought you might like to answer that.
Yeah, you're well, let's just say I'm calling them Romans because I'm starting with Romans as my base and then I modify them. So I'm sure if I were going to teach this and I have seen these taught squared off taught as Romans. So I think this would be Romans. It would just be called a Romans variation. Where they wouldn't be Romans would be you start making well, you could have cursive Romans, but I don't know. Let's say italic. It's slanted, it's a little narrower, so then you call it italic. But really, italic are a variation on Romans. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have the best answer for that. Because I think all of these, you could look at them and say the basis of that is a Romans letter.
Yeah, I think that's the answer, really.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at it anyway.
Yeah.
That
And
you start from the premise that you can do a Roman letter and then you start to narrow it or widen it or
yeah.
make it taller or shorter, and then you start playing with where your crossbars go, whether they go higher or lower or in the
Yeah.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm no, you and Clayton or someone like that who's an expert on lettering styles would probably be better to answer that. But I'm calling these Roman variations because I started with Romans. Any questions? Do people want to show their work? Let's see, let me turn this off so I have my face on there. Okay, so we have Susan. Just a minute. I am going to spotlight Susan.
Oh,
There.
So I'm calling mine
raspberry review.
Okay, well, and you added some color. That's fun.
Yeah. And then I've just gone and I've done the examples that you were,
A line along the bottom.
yeah, tonight. So fun.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
fun. Thanks for showing us. So look, these just do whatever you want because you have one piece of paper and it's not like, none of us are using a really expensive piece of paper. So if you don't like it, you just do another piece of paper. Anybody else? I can't, let's see, let me go to the next page.
If I speak, can you see mine?
Just a minute. Yeah,
Go.
Violet.
Yep.
Okay, just a minute. Got it. Fun.
So this is on charcoal paper.
Yeah, and charcoal's another good one. As sketch, drawing, charcoal, those are all. Marcia Brady used to recommend charcoal
Yes.
paper.
So
Great.
it holds up great.
And so Violet will be teaching us letters next time. So you see her fun letters on there. Okay, I see Janet is raising her hand. So now I've got to find Janet on the screen.
Close because my hand is up.
Yeah, just the problem is there, I see you now. I've got two screens going, but I've got you. And I actually could have gone to the participants list. But anyway, thank you.
So I started. Well, I was watercoloring today in class, so I just started with a little bit of watercolor there.
That's fun. Very fun.
And then I tried to follow along. I'm sorry, the light isn't good. I tried to follow along with what you were doing with some of the letters. And as I said, I was doing watercolor today, so I just did.
Very fun. And your little leaves up there at the top are great too.
Oh, yeah.
Very fun. Thank you.
That's just the start. Thank you, dear.
I love seeing what people have done. Anybody else? Margaret. So what is, that's a punched flower in the upper left corner?
Yeah, I just happened to have some ephemera floating around my dampener.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I was just fiddling with while you were talking. And then I started to do some of the letters as you were talking. Yeah.
I was thinking it could be fun to do some colored letters in here too, or we fill in the colors between the letters. There's just so many things we can do, and they're just fun little references. Anybody else? I'm trying to see. When we have so many people, it's harder. Linda Ross, are you just folding your book or would you like to show it?
My audio on. What I did was I did what you were doing, but then I thought, I wanted to have more space to do the letters. And so I turned my paper inside out and I started writing on the other side.
You want to hold it up so we can see?
Yes. So
that's a good idea. You've got more of a reference there too.
So I just started on the other side.
Yeah. And if you wanted more space from the start, you could just skip the Enzo and do a blank book.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the Enzo gave it a nice touch. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I just wanted to give people ideas. You can all, this is your book. And anybody else?
Janet Klesner.
Got it. I'm going to spotlight her. Thank you. Well, that's fun. What did you do the love with?
It's you run it through your machine and cut it out.
Oh, a die cut.
Right.
I thought it looked very, very nice contrast. And I thought I haven't seen maybe an acrylic brush pen could do that.
Anyway, thank you. This was really fun.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Rachel. So do you have a scrap of paper there on the bottom? You're on mute.
Okay. So I collaged some paper onto it on the
Fun.
front.
Very
And
fun.
then I just did some lettering around. I didn't realize that what you had, so I just did the
yeah,
parts and then I did the.
that
Well,
looks fun.
it's not really clear, but anyway, you
But
got
we
an
can see
idea.
you did circular lettering. That's great. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
do that in one of mine.
I didn't go any further. Well, I
Okay.
got a little bit on this one, but not much.
Yeah,
I got the
great.
whole alphabet there anyway.
Looks great.
Oh, it was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So Gwen, do you have, I saw you on there giving a thumbs up. Do you have anything to show? Often you do, but I'm
I
not going to
have
put you, if you're not
I
ready,
haven't
okay.
designed my front page yet.
Okay, just a minute.
Wow.
Okay. You always
This
take
is
very good notes.
this is what you said, and then I just wrote it down.
Yeah.
And I put all the O's on this little corner that provide by
Okay, yeah.
pencil.
Yeah.
And then these are the whatever scribe from the post. Then I cut it down from my pen friends.
Very nice.
And then just stick it and the ampersand. Perhaps I will make some more on the corner as well.
Yeah, good idea. There are so many different ampersands you can put on there.
So
Great.
this is what
Thank
I have
you.
today. Thanks for teaching us.
Anybody else? We have a few minutes still. Anybody have any comments? Anyone want to show what they did? Anybody have anything they've done in the past month they want to show? Okay, well, I guess it was great having you all here. And I will process the recording. Sometimes it processes quick, and if so, I'll get it out tonight. And if you finish your book up and want to, you can go ahead and post in our study group. I'll include that information in the memo I send out. We always love looking at what everybody does. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And
Thank
good
you,
luck.
Kristi. This is great. Really
Good luck
enjoyed
with
it.
the cold weather.
Thank
Those
you.
of
Thank you,
in
everyone.
cold
Thank you.
climates.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Thanks, Kristi.
Thank
Great ideas.
you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kristi.
Thanks.
Nice
A very
weekend.
warming session.